If you're a law firm owner, a criminal defense law firm owner specifically, and you want to jump start your law firm's revenue growth and you want to start growing rapidly like I did, and you want to know how, then tune in and find out, and I'll tell you my experience and also what you should do.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. In 2012, I didn't know it at the time, but I was averaging about $220,000 a month, $220,000 a year in my law firm. And I thought my revenues were up and down, and they were up and down, and they were up and down for a couple of decades because there were certain things I didn't know. But when I went back and I averaged them for 10 years, I discovered that I only made $220,000 a year on average over, it was at least that I measured those 10 years. I didn't have the numbers to go all the way back, but I suspect it was probably the same for 20 years, and it never changed. And then something happened, and all of a sudden, in 2013, is when I started learning and growing. It's when I joined my first consulting and coaching program. And I went to that event in July and started thinking about growth. I made an extra $14,000 a month. My 5-month growth rate was 70%. In other words, I'd been doing the same thing for at least 15 or 20 years. Nothing ever changed. Then all of a sudden, I start doing something different, and my law firm revenues grow 70% in 5 months. Carrying that over to year 2014, my revenues went from per year from just under $240,000 the previous year in 2012 to the end of 2014, I was over $435,000. It increased 80% in 18 months. Okay? That's incredible, right? It was incredible to me. And so when I talk to people, when I talk to lawyers who want to grow their law firm and, they're desperate for success, and they ask me, what did you do first? What changed? What did you start to do differently? And I remember years earlier, before I started learning and growing, that in Myrtle Beach, and my wife at the time was my main office manager, paralegal. She did a lot of different things, did a lot of things that I shouldn't have had her do, like keep the books, manage the files and all this stuff, but I didn't know any better. So we started getting on a little bit of a tear. Now, at that time, and certainly the way I was doing it in Myrtle Beach is a tourist town. It's primarily the summer season. There is the golfing and the shoulder season, the spring and the fall. But most of the business came in. Most of the people came to Myrtle Beach because we had, at the time, 14, 15 million people come to Myrtle Beach. And so it's a tremendous number of tourists, and people are coming to, get drunk and hang out and have a good time and act in a way they wouldn't act in their hometown. It's like going to New Orleans or Bourbon Street or something like that. It's a party atmosphere. So it leads to a lot of arrests, and a lot of different things happen. And a lot of really good people that wouldn't normally get arrested, things happen. The joke in the public defender's office was, come down on vacation, go home on probation, okay? And so in that kind of setting, we were always looking forward to this, the spring break in March and April, and then, Memorial Day, and then the summer. And then you have all these weeks in a tourist town where, for 6 weeks in the early spring is really the end of winter. People all these universities, all their spring breaks are at different times. So you have about 5 or 6 weeks there where spring breakers are in town, and some of them are getting arrested, and their parents are concerned, so their parents will hire you to get the kid out of trouble. And then after that, you get into other holidays like, Easter, and then Memorial Day. And then in June, there's this tradition where a lot of high school seniors, they just graduated high school, so they go to Myrtle Beach for the beach trip. And this is a custom, certainly was in the town that I grew up. And so they come, they're out of the house, and they just graduated from high school, and they're, drinking and doing things they shouldn't be doing, and they're going crazy. And then you get into the 4th of July, and it just goes on and on. So there's kind of a lag time. So then you start making this money. And so that I think it was like we were looking at like a 5-month period. And so we got into May and June. And my wife at the time, who worked in my office, it was my office manager, she was so excited because I think we made $20,000 that month. And that was a big deal. And so she was planning out how we were going to make $100,000, in over that 5-month period. And she was hyped, and she was up, jacked up, and we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I remember at the time thinking like, well, maybe we're going to do it, maybe we're not, I don't know, but I didn't want to pop her balloon. But she didn't really understand cause and effect, and I didn't either, because we were going to do that summer the exact same thing we'd done the summer before, and we were going to do the same thing we'd done the summer before that, and we were going to do the same thing we'd done the summer before that. So what's going to cause this to happen? What's going to drive this growth? What are we going to do differently to bring this growth about? And if I had known what to do, I would have done it. But I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know anybody who could tell me what to do. So we were just going to sit back and let it happen, that something good was going to happen to us. And if you run a law firm, that's not the right way of thinking about it. Things will happen, good things, bad things, other things will happen. Things will happen, but what drives growth is cause and effect. And you have to do something to cause an effect. And I didn't know what to do. So when people look at me and they say, and they ask me this question, I get it a lot. What drove your growth? What did you do that made a difference? And I look back at it because I did not really rebrand my law firm, because I was M. Gregory McCollum, attorney at law, or M. Gregory McCollum, PA, attorney at law. And then I rebranded that to Complete Legal Defense Team. And I also moved. I moved from this house, which, I mean, it's an okay house, but it wasn't the best part. It wasn't in the best neighborhood. And I'd fixed it up, and I had put in, landscaping and these nice, pavers so that the water drained. And I was trying to make it look like, something in Carmel, California or something like that. And it looked, it was okay, but it didn't really give the image that I wanted it to give. So once I moved into a nicer facility and rebranded and really paid attention to my brand and my logo and those sort of things, that really changed my image. I literally changed my brand. And people, because it's such a small town and people knew me, people knew that I rebranded it. They knew that was happening. In fact, I tell a story about a neighbor of mine whose family they were millionaires. They owned all these hotels and restaurants and businesses and probably things I didn't even know about. And he was walking his dog, and I was in the car, and he saw me, and I was in the car by myself. But he'd obviously heard about the rebranding, because he said, "Oh, wow, it's the entire Complete Legal Defense Team in one car." Now, this guy was normally pretty nice, but so he's mocking me, right? The entire Complete Legal Defense Team in one car, and I'm the only one in the car. So I didn't have a team. I had a dream. And there was one or maybe one other person that worked for me at the time, maybe two. And so, but the point was, and when I went to my local little diner that we would go eat at, The same thing. People would announce, oh, the complete legal defense team just entered, because they were mocking me because I was the only one that came in. But it really didn't bother me that they were mocking me. It didn't really bother me at all, because I thought, oh, wow, they got the message. But when I look back at it in July of 2013, I hadn't done that yet. I was working on it. So what caused my revenues to spike? What caused it to change? People want to know, and I understand why they want to know. And the significance of it is, it's not as important what happened that first 6 months. It's what happened over the next 10 years, what happened over the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I can clearly point that out, and I can clearly show that, and that can be replicated, and that can cause revenues to go up. But one of the things that I did is a set fee schedule, a set fee schedule. And that's what I want to talk about for a little bit. Now, primarily, what changed, and this could be just some like crazy woohoo kind of bullshit thing, the thing that, and I keep searching for the answers, and I go through my notes and I look at stuff, is what did I do? What did specifically I do? What really changed was my attitude about success, how I met with people, how I felt about myself, because I went from feeling like a loser in April of 2013, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before that, I felt hopeless. I felt like a loser. I didn't feel like there was a path to success. That's why I invested, in all those houses and did all the real estate, because I thought it was hopeless, and I felt I was helpless, and I felt like a loser. Once I learned that there was a way to do it, and that was my eye-opening experience in May in Miami in 2013, and then 2 months later, boom, I'm in the Success Club. I'm in the room. I'm listening to people. I'm seeing people learn. They're feeding me information, stuff I never knew, mind-blowing stuff. And so I come out of that and come back to work, and I'm carrying myself differently. I'm talking to people differently. I'm viewing everything differently, because now I know success is possible. And if I had to nail it down, and I had to answer that question, I've been asked that many, many times, the main thing that changed was my attitude, because I knew that I was going to do this. I didn't know at the time that I was going to have, a 7-figure law firm. I didn't know at the time I was going to have a lot of free time. I didn't know at the time how good I could make my life. And I certainly never envisioned that I would be teaching other lawyers and running mastermind groups and coaching other people. It never even entered my mind. I knew that I could grow my law firm. And if I could double my law firm or triple my law firm, then that would be pretty good. If I could go from making $200,000 a year to $750,000 a year, I thought at the time that would solve all my problems. I'd have more money than I knew what to do with. So that would have been pretty good, because I never believed that. But the thing that changed in the beginning, the thing that drove 70% growth over 5 months, was attitude. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some windfall. I changed my attitude. And so when I met with people, they were more likely to hire me. People were more likely to refer somebody to me, and that sort of thing. And that's the thing that I can pin it down. Now, in concrete terms, moving my office and branding was huge. Moving and branding is harder than setting a fee schedule. Setting a fee schedule is something that you can do, which will give you clarity and you'll make more money. So what is a set fee schedule? It can operate on a lot of different levels. It can function as complex as you want it or as simple as you want it. And mine has evolved over time. Now, right now, the fee schedule is for everything that people get charged with, and people that call. My intake team, they all have the fee schedule, and the fee schedule evolves. It changes. We make additions and corrections to it based on market response and based on feedback and things that we think. Are we charging enough? Are we not charging enough? Are we charging? Is this prohibiting from people from hiring us? Is this case that difficult? What's the fee need to be? Prior to having a fee schedule, when I would go into a potential client meeting, literally I'm confused. They came there because they want the answer and they want to know if I can help them and how much it'll cost. And now what am I doing? I'm wavering. I'm waffling. I'm trying to decide. So I'm asking them questions, trying to gauge how much this should cost. And that's it. I'm telling you, don't do it that way. That's bullshit. Figure out what you charge and charge everybody the same. If you charge $5,000 for a DUI, it's $5,000. You don't hesitate. If you charge $30,000 for an attempted sexual assault, it's $30,000. If you charge $90,000 for an attempted sexual assault, it's $90,000. Because the other thing that I learned too is that when I raised my prices, and that's something that I did too, is when I raised my prices and I moved into a nicer facility and I rebranded, in the beginning, the old client base couldn't afford me, but a new client base emerged because I was a higher level. I changed my image. I changed my brand. So my client base went from poor and downtrodden to higher end and more wealthy, which the people that have a lot to lose. That changed. It didn't change in a week. And in the beginning, with the higher prices and a different level of representation, I just can't afford you. I can't afford you. And some of my referral base at that time died off, but it was replaced because then I started getting people that would never hire me. But the set fee schedule does so many things. And I remember when I did the sales meetings back then, sometimes would ask me, they would tell me what they were charged with. And they'd say, well, we get to the point, they say, how much does it cost? Well, back then I would either go get it. I said, well, let me check the schedule, or I'll have somebody bring it in, or maybe I had it, I carried it in the meeting. And so I look at it and I go, because it's alphabetical, and I go, okay, for assault and battery of high and aggravated nature, we, in this situation, we charge $15,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is. There it is. That's what we charge. And that gives you an authority and a credibility. If you think about it, when you go buy a car and everybody thinks that, the car dealers are shady or whatever, because they always say, well, I got to go talk to the sales manager. And so we're all thinking, well, they're just hustling us. It's well known. Everybody believes this. They're just hustling us. There's no price on the car. Okay, you got the manufacturer's suggested price, but then you got this like wiggle room, okay? And they're just trying to squeeze every drop of money out of me that they can. And that's distrust, and that's a problem. When you have the set fee schedule, you just eliminate that. So it's honest, it's transparent. So what's the objection? The objection from lawyers is like, well, that's impossible. I can't charge the same thing for every case because every case is different. Is it? Really? Some cases are easy, some cases are hard. If you say, well, I'm going to charge less money for this because this case is easy, then it turns out to be hard. You really can't change the fee, and you can't change it. If you can change it, call me, send me an email, tell me that you can change it. You can't change it. You set the fee. Now the case is difficult. You can't really say what's going to be difficult or easy. So then it's going to even out over time. In our case, we do 70, 75 DUI cases a year. So that's $5,000. Some cases are easier than others. It all blends together. Same thing with sexual assault. We do a lot of sexual assaults. We do a lot of domestic violence cases. Some are easy, some are more difficult. So what's the worst thing about a difficult case? It takes longer. You spend a little more time on it. Maybe the prosecutor's more difficult, and you have to have a trial. Well, the trial only lasts a day or two on those kind of cases. Now, if you have a complex case, like a sexual assault or something, yeah, it may take 3 or 4 days, right? Probably won't, but it could. The only exception to this is murder cases, because the murder case can take weeks, and the preparation and the discovery can really blow up. So that's a little bit different. But just on a set fee schedule, it's going to solve a lot of your problems. Now, a guy I know, and somebody who's an active, coaching member of Prosper at Law, he has a different model. And I like his model because what he does is he's really high end. He gets incredible results. The type of lawyer and the results he gets is really mind-blowing. So he charges a $7,500 consultation fee. In other words, if you want to have a consultation, he charges $7,500. But the consultation involves a lot. This will involve him spending a lot of time with you. This will involve him traveling to where you live. So in other words, if you got arrested in North Carolina and you retain him and you pay the consultation fee and you live in, say, Tennessee, he's coming to Tennessee. He's going to meet with you. He's going to see what you're about. He's going to understand your town. He's going to understand everything about you. And he's going to start talking to you and exploring the case and finding out things about the case. And before you decide to hire him, you're going to know a lot. And so you're going to get value out of that. Now, the jump then from the $7,500 consultation fee, and the consultation can last a week or two. It could last a couple of weeks. And he's going to do a lot and give you recommendations. So now you go to hire him. Well, if you hire him, depending on what you're charged with, it may be $500,000. It may be $100,000. Okay? And so that's a different model. Now, I like the model, but what I don't like about the model is he has to do it. In other words, if I want to go on an African safari for 3.5 weeks, I can go because my intake team, they've got the fee schedule. They know what we charge. They know how to sign up cases. My legal team knows how to handle the cases. They know how to go to court. We have a system and they know what to do. So if I'm off, gallivanting around Europe for 3.5 weeks, nothing stops. With my friend and my other person that I coach, he can't do that unless he can afford to not make an extra, say, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 that month. He has to be able to not afford it. And the law firm that I built and the law firm that I teach other people to build is self-managing, because that's the freedom that I seek. That's the freedom that a lot of people want. And the fee schedule will grow your revenues. It'll solve problems, and I recommend it. And if that's probably the one thing I did in the earliest stages that really started increasing my revenues, because it solved so many problems. One, when we went in, we had the authority. It's like if you go to a restaurant and you ask for a menu and you want to order this or that, and you go, how much is it? And they say, we haven't decided yet. Show us your bank account. You're not going to feel good about that. You want to see the price. And everything in the world is priced. Everything is priced. If you want to buy a car, you want to buy a sandwich, you want to buy a plane ticket. Now, the plane tickets and hotel rates, they go up and down. It drives you crazy. But for the one that you want to buy that day, there's a price. And so the set fee schedule aligns with people's expectations. It gives you credibility. It gives them something to think about. And they can decide whether or not that's going to fit with them, their budget, and what they want to do. So I hope this is helpful. Thank you for listening. If you have interest in learning how to grow your law firm and jumpstart your law firm's practice, reach out to me. You can find me at prosperatlaw.com. You can go to the website. It is easy. You can schedule a call. I'll be happy to talk to you about moving forward. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.